And now it gives me enormous pleasure to introduce, for the second year running, to the stage from the UK, Rich Wilson of Relative Insight. Rich.
Thanks. Yeah, we're here for a second year. We're like the naughty school kids that got held back, you know. My name's Rich. I'm from Relative. We help brands better understand and resonate with their audiences by comparing and analysing language. But it's not how we started, actually. We didn't start with marketing. We started as a research project into criminal linguistics, and that was held with the UK government. And in that space, it sounds quite exciting, I appreciate, but I can't talk about most of it. One example I can give you is that we can identify when it's a 10-year-old child talking online or a 50-year-old adult masquerading as a child. Now, the only way you can do that is by comparing language at pretty massive scale. And it turns out that ability to compare language is super useful for brands to discover new things about audiences. So an example of this is some work we did with Nokia on this device, Lumia 1020. Had an amazing camera, so good in fact that they were aiming it at owners of these fairly high-end DSLR devices. So this was a new audience for Nokia, so how do they resonate with them? So what we did was compare how owners of DSLRs talk about photography with how regular consumers talk about photography. And we uncovered a bunch of stuff, not least of all, whereas regular consumers will talk about taking awesome photos. DSLR owners talk about shooting great images. And if you're not using their vernacular, they just switch off, right? So it's no accident that we went on to see this on the billboards absolutely everywhere around the globe. It's that consumer credibility that Apple are going for with the word shop in a keyword. We've gone on to work with lots of brands and agencies doing all kinds of things with language, but they all start off at the same spot. Everyone has social listening, right, of some description. And the marketing, whilst that's good to do simple things like word clouds and maybe sentiment, the marketing team want more. The marketing team want to discover new things, and they're effectively really good search engines. But there's loads of language on social that's not been explored. So how do you make sense of that? And that's exactly what we do. We layer on top to make sense of social and uncover the new insights. So we're a tech firm, so we have to have a dashboard, and here it is. We deliver software as a service for many of our clients. So I've just onboarded 160 people at Unilever, for example, and they do everything from upload their own data through to running the comparisons and writing the reports themselves. But not everyone has that capability. So we also have Insight as a service, which is where we wrap our technology with our own analysts who will go off, research, take a question from a client, research appropriate data sources, get the data in, run the comparisons, and spit out a nice looking report at the end of it. And that's Insight as a service. So we're fortunate to have some of the most respected brands and agencies using us across the globe already in a very short space of time. One last example I want to give you is Star Wars. Now, I personally love this example because for the first time in my entire career, my friends and critically my kids actually understand what I do for a living. So for Star Wars, we had a hypothesis, which was that fans of Star Wars have different interests in the different regions, right? So we compared how fans of Star Wars in the US talk about the franchise with those in the UK and Australia. Turns out, again, a bunch of insights, not least of all, fans in the US are interested in the primary scenes and the primary characters, whereas in the UK, we're interested in the secondary scenes and the secondary characters. If anyone out there is a fan of Star Wars, Australia are pretty much the same as the US, but there's an outlier in a character called Boba Fett. Turns out Boba Fett is played by a Kiwi, and that's the reason. So we uncover insights for lots of marketers and analysts alike across the globe now. I'm here with Ben, our CEO. He's just over there. If you want to come and speak to us after the session, we'd be glad to do that. We want to work with all the brands and agencies that are here now and help make you famous. Thanks for listening.